Jeff Todd here for MLB Trade Rumors. Look, spring is extension season in baseball, and we've got a couple of important ones to discuss with you today. But first, I want to take you back 5 years ago, March of 2015, to set the stage. The Marlins hit an absolute home run with an extension with a young outfielder named Christian Yelich. Unfortunately, they traded that home run to the Brewers before they circled the bases, but it did set the stage for yet another deal just yesterday, becoming formal. The Brewers now have a monster contract with Yelich. It's going to keep him in town until his age 36 season. This one's on the books for 7 years and $188.5 million. Don't listen to what anybody else tells you about that. Yeah, there's 2 more years left on his contract. Those are still there. We are not counting those. It's $7 and $188.5 million. That's about $27 million annually. That is the new money in this deal. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. It's cartoon money to me, just like it is to you. It's a crazy amount of money, but at the same time, in baseball terms, it's kind of light for a guy that just turned 28 years of age and has arguably been the best player in the National League for the past 2 seasons. So let's look at how this deal came to be. Now, Yelich, you'll hear 2 years from free agency. Actually, he was 3 years from reaching free agency. That's because that prior deal with the Marlins included a really appealing $15 million option for what would have been Yelich's age 30 campaign. Instead, that is going to be part of the new deal. So the Brewers had quite a lot of leverage here. Yelich was 3 years away from controlling his own destiny. That's how to understand this contract. When you look at it compared to, say, Anthony Rendon, $35 million annually, quite a lot more than Yelich got in free agency for similar aged seasons, but he waited it out, and we know he probably would not have earned that much a few years ago before he hit the open market had he reached a long-term deal with the Nationals. So let's look at some other extensions. We can throw Mike Trout right out the window. His 10-year, $360 million contract probably still grossly underpaid him. That's how good Trout has been for so long. To me, the one to focus on, Jose Altuve. He was 2 years from free agency. His deal included a very small guarantee, his first extension. When he signed his second extension, he added on 5 years and $151 million. That's obviously a bit more on the annual side than Yelich got. It's interesting, Altuve's deal took him through his age 34 season, 2 years short of where Yelich will go. So the Brewers are actually adding 2 years on top of that Altuve deal at pretty light money. On the other hand, who knows what you'll be getting out of these guys when they're in their mid-30s and old and probably broken down.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Anyway, moving on. It's not hard to see how this Yelich contract works for both sides. Obviously, he valued staying in this organization. He knows his future now. But still, the team is definitely getting a really nice discount. When you look at some deals and look at how they valued future seasons that would have been free agent campaigns, that $27 million value comes in pretty light. In fact, let's look at a deal that was signed last year. Alex Bregman inking for 5 years, $100 million with the Astros, but he was still not yet in arbitration. His free agent campaigns that were included in that deal were valued at $28.5 million. I'm mentioning that contract to segue over to talk about Yoan Moncada because the Bregman deal and the Moncada deal are very similar. One thing to bear in mind, Bregman's 5-year, $100 million deal started 1 year later than when he signed it. So he finished out his final season of pre-arbitration team control. Then the 5-year deal kicked in. So that contract runs through 2024. 1 year later, let's look at Moncada. His deal starts right away. So it only also runs through 2024. Same as Bregman, despite being signed 1 year later. But it includes a team option for that final year. That is to say, if the White Sox want to control Moncada for the same stage of his career as the Astros control Bregman, they'll have to pay more than the $70 million guarantee. In that case, it would become a $90 million contract, which is fairly close to Bregman's deal. And if you look at it that way, it's pretty impressive that Moncada was able to get that close. Obviously, the White Sox were able to keep some flexibility. They're not locked into that last year if he falls flat over the coming seasons. So the fact that those deals end up coming in at similar value if they span the same amount of time is why I still think Bregman's contract is the right comparable to consider the Moncada deal. The Moncada deal blows other contracts like Rougned Odor, Kevin Kiermaier, blows them out of the water. Much better deal for the player, which is understandable. Even though Moncada obviously does not have the track record that Bregman did, he was able to come close, and the reason is that he had a big starting point ahead of him. He had a lot of leverage. This is a guy that signed a $31.5 million deal when he entered the league. Bregman well under $10 million, even as a top draft pick. And that meant that Moncada really didn't need to do this contract. Obviously, he wanted to. He's getting life-changing money. He'll still have plenty of time to go back into free agency if it works out and make a whole lot more cash. Now, you can certainly imagine an argument for just waiting, hoping that you can have another great year, keep moving that arbitration salary north, and then maybe strike an even bigger contract, if not just waiting all the way till free agency. I'm not going to fault the guy either way. It looks like a pretty fairly negotiated contract. It works for him as long as it's fair on all sides and he has the support he needs from the players union. Good on him. And good for the White Sox, although they also have quite a lot of money tied up in several young players. Immense upside, also some risk for them. So, extensions. 2 big ones. How many more to come? That remains to be seen. Indications are quite a lot of teams are looking at quite a few possible deals with players. To understand these deals as they come, be sure to subscribe below and follow us at MLBTradeRumors.com.